Okay, so let's take an up and close look at the eustachian tube, talk about a few things that are the surrounding the eustachian tube. A lot of you are dealing with a lot of congestion, clogging sounds, clicking sounds, kind of swooshing sounds, the whole thing. So let's just talk about a little bit about what we're looking at here. So right now you'll see this is where the eustachian tube is located. For those of you who are just starting to feel the effects of eustachian tube dysfunction, I just wanted to, and those that have had it for quite some time may not exactly know what it looks like. You've probably seen photos, but I'm going to give you an up and close look here. So let's see. So basically, this is your eustachian tube. This is also known as the auditory tube. The surrounding tissue right here, the cartilage, is what is starts to become more narrow. When the doctors are going in your ear, they see the narrowing of the eustachian tube. And as you can see, the eustachian tube is typically at an angle. So that way it allows drainage to go through. So that way when we're having a cold or things like that, you typically hear doctors say, hey, your ears are clogged. Typically in that sense, there's a lot of inflammation, a lot of fluid buildup. So what causes the eustachian tube generally can come from a cold, which then hangs around a lot longer, as a lot of you have noticed. And that is when I start to say that this becomes more of a muscular issue. So meaning that you primarily received the issue of eustachian tube, started noticing the symptoms and whatnot. But over time, I'm going to go ahead and say that with stress, with tension in the neck, posture related problems, this is going to really expedite the symptoms. It's going to really keep it around. So let's go a little closer, and you'll see. Tried to outline this here. When I start talking about the three little tiny bones in our ears, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. These bones are incredibly small. You see where it is here, right near the eardrum, leading down to the eustachian tube. The eustachian tube, of course, this animation is showing you in full spectrum, but eustachian tube is not very big. So, when you have problems with it, it's going to be a real sensitive piece of cartilage there, and so when that starts to cause problems, it's going to really be a nightmare for all of us sufferers and those that have had issues with tinnitus and things like that. This has a lot to do with inflammation. Inflammation is the ruling and leading cause for a lot of the problems we feel. And over time, we're the cause. We're keeping it around because of the things we're doing, but then also things we cannot control sometimes. Now, the main purpose of these three bones, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, are basically located in the tympanic membrane. So these are tiny little bones that are really there for really allowing transmission of sound waves. So when there's inflammation affecting all areas of the ear, there's the tensor tympani. I talked a little bit about that as well in other videos. I can also link to that so you can get a little information about that. But you'll see here that there's a lot going on in such a small area of our ear. And when little things go wrong, when you hear middle ear, this is what it's basically showing. This wanted to outline this area here. Is a lot going on in this tiny little area here. So when you get issues in your eustachian tube, and that tube becomes more in a, I guess you could say more in a horizontal perspective, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Those of you who are hearing the sounds, all the things that are happening is happening from this eustachian tube because of all the inflammation and the fluid buildup. But I wanted to show you, that's kind of giving you an up close look at it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up the animation to show you how it would look on an anatomy figure, so that way you can kind of see exactly how it would be with all the muscles and the surrounding tissue. Okay, so you'll see here, this is a side view. We're looking at the side. We have the temporal bone here, and we're looking at it from the side perspective. The eustachian tube comes down, and this is how it should typically look. And if it's not looking this way, your eustachian tube, as you can see, it's not very long of a tube at all, and so it has a big responsibility for a tube of that size. So when this tube becomes inflamed, or it becomes more propped up and a more horizontal position, it's going to cause a lot of issues. Now let's add some nerves over that. See, there's a lot of nerves that run through and close to that eustachian tube, and when there's issues with inflammation, it's going to affect a lot of nerves in the area here. Now, just pulling up a few, there's a lot of nerves from the dental region. So if you feel any issues with the teeth, the jaw, you'll see that the eustachian tube has a lot, it runs through a lot of those nerves. And this is what I wanted to show all of you, how important it is that if there's inflammation and problems with that tube, you're going to see how much it can affect the entire body just in itself. So I hope this video was very helpful for you. If it was, take time to subscribe to the channel. I try to bring content pretty often. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and step out of the Jaye Wellness Studio and leave you in good hands with this video. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you very soon.